Hi, this is Natalie from Namaste Farms, and today I'm going to talk about how to put feathers into yarn using a fly tying method. First of all, what you're going to want to do is you have to have thread, and you can't have like quilting thread because it's too thin and it's going to break. But you don't want super thick thread. This is the absolute thickest that you want, and this is mercerized cotton, so it's like a pearl, sort of got a shimmer to it, but there's no metallic in there like a lurex or something. So this is, they call it 5/2, and it tells you that's the size, the diameter, and how many plies. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I think. And I think I've went over this a couple of times that I don't know, but I keep saying it. So let's just go with it. If it's 10/2, it means it's smaller, right? So 10, it means the diameter would be smaller. 20, it would be even smaller. It just keeps going. So there's like 50/2, and there's even 100/2. And you don't want to really have anything smaller than, like, I would say a 20/2. Because, like I said, it breaks. And this thread is what's going to be holding our feathers on. So I'm sure most of you know that when you see usually feather yarn, people just spin it in, and it's sort of willy-nilly, and it ends up like the quills will poke out, and also the feathers will come out if you wash the yarn. That won't happen on this. That said, it's a lot more labor-intensive. Okay, so the types of feathers that we can use are feathers like these. I got these from a friend, Amy. I actually traded her some fiber for it. She's on Facebook. And if you, I think she has a friend that imports them from China. These are millinery feathers, so they're used for making hats. The problem with these and your regular, rooster feathers that you can get from, your own chickens is, see all the down on the ends? That is problematic, and it's really messy and ugly looking, and it kind of sticks out of the thread. And also the quills are hard. If you get fly tying feathers, they don't have this messiness, and the quills are a lot softer. So if you're going to use these kind of feathers, because they are a lot less expensive, what you can do is you can just cut the ends off. But I go straight, I go all the way up until I don't see this, fuzziness, this down. I'll cut all of the down off, right? And another thing is I'll group my feathers. I like to group my feathers like in like little things of 3, usually an odd number, 3 or 5. I rarely do it in an even number. Okay, so then we have the alternate would be fly tying feathers, right? So here's some fly tying feathers. These are really, really, really expensive. And you can see there's no down. And this is a full hackle, so the side of the neck, the back of the neck. And saddle feathers are really good too. And they can be very, very long. And the longer the better. So I'm going to show you using, because it's easier for me, to use my fly tying feathers. Okay, first of all, I'm going to break off this cotton thread. And then I'm going to use a long wool. And the longer the fleece, really the better, because I'm going to alternate spinning in different directions. And when you do that, you're putting a spin in and you're taking it out. And the longer the fibers, the more chance it has to overlap. So you would never use a like cashmere, or you wouldn't even use anything that didn't have a lot of scales and wasn't a little bit on the coarse side, because you want it to catch. Okay, so. Actually, I'm going to put my hair up so I don't have to worry about it. Because I'm always putting my hair in people's yarn. I'm sure they really appreciate it. Okay, here we go. So I'll start spinning whatever direction. It doesn't even matter. It really doesn't. And I'm just going to start to spin a single. And I don't like to have a single spun beforehand, because I'm going to spin back and forth, back and forth. And if I use roving, it is going to have kinks in it, and I don't want kinks in my yarn. We talked about that. That's like such a big deal to me. Right now I'm just sort of warming up my hands and just sort of seeing because each fleece wants to spin differently, and I just am trying to get a feel for this fleece and get a feel for the staple, and like what I can do with it, right? I just want to feel like how much play it has in it. Okay, now, I'm going to put a little extra energy in it, so a little extra twist. Okay. And I'm going to grab some feathers. And I don't really have to cut the ends of these ones off, because these ones are so neat and tidy. I want to send them in the orifice this way so that I don't spread out the feathers and ruin them. And my feather yarns, when I was selling them at Yarn Market, they were selling for like $6 a yard. So think about that. And I would sell them, sometimes my yarns would only have like 10 yards in them. But it would be $60. but it's because the feathers that I use are so incredibly expensive. Okay, so I just did a half knot. Now I kind of want to break this. I want this to be short, this little end, but see my fiber is long, so I know it's attached in there. So I'm going to, because I'm going to want it to spin around, I'm going to let this spin around and around and around. And I'm going to kind of go slow because I want it to be neat and tidy. And then it almost makes like this bead. And I let the twist come out of that part. Then I'm going to take this end and I'm going to put it up here because I'm going to join it into my next section of base yarn. And all this messiness here, I could have either started down lower, but I usually just cut it off at the end when it's on the nitty knotty. I go around to all these little beaded things. I call these beads, yarn beads, but see how neat and tidy that looks? But I'm going to take this and I'm going to tuck it into this, my next base piece, right? And it gives it kind of a very secure, it's very secure, and it's not, I don't have these ends sticking out. And if I didn't want that little tiny bit of striping right there, I just cover it up with another piece of yarn, with another piece of wool. It's no big deal. Okay, now, right now at this point, I'm not overspun. Okay. And I pay attention to when this is going in. So this is going in like on my third peg. So if I would, for me, I would go ahead and put another set of feathers right here. And every time it goes through the orifice and gets to the third peg, I'm going to do another set of feathers because I like sort of symmetry. That's just the way my eye wants to see symmetry. And not everybody wants that, but I do. Because I don't want someone to knit something and have big bald spots where there's no feathers. Okay, so I just break it. It's sort of random, it's sort of approximate. It doesn't really matter how much, you have to break enough thread off, but, when I think that my end is the right length, or my bead is the right length, I call it a bead, then I just tuck it the rest. I don't have to, I want my beads to be about the same length, but I just have my own feel for what I do, and so I kind of know when I have enough thread or too much, because I've done it so much, and everything like this just takes experience. And it's very intuitive. The other thing that I do that I'm not showing is that I will use a bead and I will stick a bead on this end. And so I'll do the bead with thread, but I'll put an actual bead on the end. But if you do it that way, you're going to end up spinning your feathers the other direction because the bead's going to have to come up from a core. And I can save that for another time. I can only do so much. Here. Okay, so the same thing. I want this end here. It's ready. And I'm going to go the other direction now because I wasn't overspun, but I'm going to be if I keep going to the right. So now I'm going to go to the left. It's going to have to catch. Oops, I just lost one, which is no big deal. And there, I don't want my bead to be too much longer than that. Now I have this extra end, and I'm going to just tuck it into the middle of my fiber. Now I can feel tension in my hand. I know I can't keep going to the left. I'm going to have to go back to the right. You're constantly going back and forth. So basically this is the premise, that you are going to first take your thread and you're going to tie your feathers onto your base yarn. I don't make my base yarn ahead of time because you're going to overspin it and it's going to get kinked. So I do it as I go because if I just have this little end here, I can undo and release some of the energy. Whereas if I had a bunch of yarn behind here, because it was already pre-made, I wouldn't be able to release my tension. And if we have all that energy and there's no place for it to go except for in the yarn, it's just going to be overspun and kinked. Okay, so right now, I feel like this doesn't have too much energy in it, so I'm going to continue to spin in the direction that I was spinning, which was to the right. Sometimes I'm going to release the energy by spinning in the opposite direction, and sometimes I'm not. You have to feel. You have to have feel with this thing. There is no, to be a good spinner, you really have to have intuition. People can't tell you every single scenario. And that is hard for some people. Some people want to know every single answer to every single scenario, and that's just simply impossible to do. You have to just, practice and find out what works best for you. Look at how much tension. I have a lot of energy in here, and I have so much that I know I can't continue spinning to the right. I'm going to have to now go to the left. So if I want to put more feathers in, if I wanted to end it now, that would be fine, but I don't. I have to lock this down. I have to lock this piece of thread down. So I'm going to go to the other direction, right? So I'm going to hope that my yarn catches on right away. And it ended up getting caught in here, which I love this wheel because of that. You can just pull that off. There we go. No big deal. No big deal. And I'm going to go to the left. And I'm going to help it sometimes. I'm just going to help it catch. If it doesn't want to catch right away, I'm just going to help it. There we go. Because you need it to catch so that it doesn't, so that it actually will start, you know, spinning instead of unwinding. You want it to catch so that you have this twist leaving rather than your yarn just unwinding. So I don't know if every wheel can do this. I know I can do it on my Magicraft. I can go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then the Spinolution, of course, is awesome for this. But I think it might depend on what kind of, you know, if you have a really low ratio like this wheel does, that makes it a lot easier to go back and forth. If you don't have super low ratios, I think you would lose too much twist or add too much twist. Okay, so here we are. So now it's exactly where I would want to put, I told you, like around these pegs is where I'd want to put more feathers in. And I can see, I mean, there's not a lot of twist in there. And this is obviously over, it's getting too much energy, and so I'm probably going to want to go the other direction. And so that's how we do it. We just continue doing this until we get, you know, we get as far as we need to get and how much we want to make. And this yarn is very, very time consuming. And you should charge accordingly, right? And plus you have to put a product in there unless you're using your own chicken feathers. And like I said, the thing that's cool about the chicken feathers with the down is that if you dye after you make the yarn, it picks up, that down picks up different colors than the actual feathers, the feather part does, and it looks so incredibly cool. So there is one situation where I like to use just regular chicken feather yarn, is to dye afterwards. This I wouldn't dye afterwards. Because feathers are protein, they're going to dye, just like wool and silk. So see, I'm going to try and make my bead kind of even. And sometimes see how I'm twisting my hand with it. I want it to go in, there we go. Sometimes my beads aren't as pretty as other times, but in general they're pretty neat and tidy. Okay, and I want to lock this piece down again. Okay, so basically that is how you do it. And I'm going to try and undo this right now and show you a few. See, it's pretty even, and you can kind of see the little orange thread in here, which is fine. That's, to me, it's really cool. If I didn't want to see that orange thread, I just would have covered it up more with fleece. There's other things I can teach you later, but we'll meet in the iMeet room, and if you guys have any questions, I will answer them for you. So thanks for watching.